What's up guys, TheMainManSWE here, hoping you're all doing awesome as always. I have been requested to explain I'm gonna shut the window here, to explain the gimmick concept. What is a gimmick? It's something you hear Tekken players refer to quite a bit. And then there's a concept I came up with, which is the lab character, which is often seen as controversial by high-level players because they feel every character is a lab character. When I say lab character, you know what, let's just take it one step at a time. We're gonna start by explaining gimmicks. What is a gimmick? A gimmick is a move that seems like it kind of just breaks the rules of the game in some way. And it's usually quite difficult to counter. It's often a move that might be very easy to utilize, but is very hard for the opponent to counter. It's a bit like, God, from what end do I tackle this? It's a little bit like a trick, I would say. A good example of a gimmick, for example, is Kazuya's let's see, I have created a new layer. Kazuya's back +1 +4. And what is this? It's his unblockable, you know, the short version. He doesn't spin 2 full spins. He just does 1 spin. You've probably seen me use this a million times at the wall. And why do I do this? Because it's an unblockable that is much faster than your typical unblockable. Most people don't have time to react to it, and it actually has some crushing right before it hits, where it will crush highs. You know, and most people's gut wrench, is that how you say it? Reaction to that unblockable is just for a jab that gets crushed, and they get thrown up onto the wall, and I get a wall combo for massive damage, and then when they wake up, more pressure. That is a move that feels like it just breaks the rules of the game. It's very hard to get out of it. Either you have to react very quickly or you have to sidestep it on reaction, which can be very hard. So it's a cheap trick. It is a gimmick. That is the definition of a gimmick. Another character I like to play is Noctis. And there we have down back +1 +2, also known as the Aura. This is a very, very powerful gimmick. It is super easy to do, and the move has incredible properties where I would almost say that the entire character of Noctis is a gimmick. You can actually, and as soon as we say a character is kind of a gimmick, suddenly we're starting to talk about lab characters. Like I would put Noctis in here. I would put Xiaoyu. Did I actually spell that correctly? I would put Yoshi. But yeah, Aura, it's a gimmick. You know, it hits the entire stage. If it's done from... Let's actually deconstruct the Aura here very quickly. Aura. Here is Noctis. And here he does the Aura. Let's say this is the... I mean, it's basically like this. Let's say this is the impact of a move. And these are different ranges. Like so. If you're standing here, which is next to Noctis, it is steppable. You can sidestep left, for example. Or sidewalk left. But if you're at any other range, let's call this range 1, 2, 3, 4. At any other range, the move is homing. And to counter this move, you either have to stand here at tip range and backdash it just as it's about to hit, or you have to stand here. If you're at any other range here, you just stand still. It's like you're next to a T-Rex, you know. Ian, freeze! You know, in Jurassic Park where they throw those light flares and they just stand still. That's what you do versus a Noctis at range 2, 3, 4. Or if you think you can actually backdash the hit, do so and then kill him on whiff. It's terrible on whiff. But at any other range, you have to stand completely still. Don't sidestep, don't backdash, do nothing. Stand there and block like this. And just tire him out. Let him throw those auras. And you'll be very safe. But most people don't know this about this gimmick. They move around. They try and sidestep at all ranges. They try and backdash. And they're clipped. Very powerful gimmick. You have to know this or you're dead. So that is what I'm trying to say about. Hopefully you understand Gimmick now. It's like, it's a move very easy to utilize, but requires a lot of knowledge from your opponent to counter. It's like a cheap trick, you know, I would say. It breaks the rules of the game a little bit. So yes, my main character also has a gimmick. It's the back 1-4. So if you want to talk more about lab characters, I've told you guys about, now this is controversial, as I told you guys in the beginning of this video. Some high level players will tell you every character has to be labbed, and when we say lab, we mean hit practice mode and go through the entire move list, move by move. How do I counter this? Oh, it's so complicated, it's so detailed, how you're supposed to counter the character. But what I feel is a lab character is the character where you actually have to study, like you would study in front of an exam or a test, you know, where you have to put down hours upon hours to learn how to deal and counter a character properly. So if I put here Brian and let's say Claudio, these are characters I feel are not lab characters, because to counter these characters, they play a very typical straightforward Tekken, and all you need are the general rules I've explained in previous videos. So these matchups we can explain in a couple of sentences. General rules. In my opinion, you don't have to hit practice mode and study like a madman. All you need is a couple of sentences explaining the matchup, and then you can take it as you go in ranked and learn the matchup. What I mean with a lab character, let's say Xiao Yu, Yoshi, very powerful lab characters. These characters, even though I can give you a general rule, like for example with Xiao Yu, the general golden rule that you initially have to know is that you never actually try and attack her. You know, if she's standing far away from you, the worst thing you can do is run in and try and attack her, because she has so many crushing moves that will launch you. She has the Art of Phoenix, she has all kinds of weird shit that will beat whatever you do. So what we do is, we just block, and then she has about 200 moves. I don't know how many, like la 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 la, they all link together. You block, and then you have to wait until you get your opening, because if you just turtle and she has to open you up, she will eventually have to take a risk. You know, she will do a sequence of moves where she opens herself up. But now, of course, you have to be able to spot this. Here comes in your PhD knowledge. Where is this opening out of these 200 moves? Where is the actual opening? And it is here, unfortunately, yes, the general rule is don't attack. Use moves that hit her out of Phoenix. Use very low hitting mids. That's another general rule. Two very basic general rules for this matchup you need to know. But after that, it always has to be complemented with detailed... wow, I can't spell. Detailed breakdown. And this is where the PhD part of Tekken starts, where you have to take in absurd amounts of knowledge regarding strings and moves and stances. And Lei is probably one of the most powerful lab characters due to his enormous amount of moves and about, what, 15 stances? I don't know how many. So this is where, you know, you have to study like a madman. And the thing with these powerful lab characters like Xiao Yu, Yoshi, and Lei is that you cannot actually just go into ranked or hit practice mode, you know, and learn all the moves. You need a good Xiao Yu, Yoshi, and Lei player to actually tell you about these moves, how they are used, how they like to link them together, what are the popular flowcharts, how do you deal with distance, etc. These characters are so confusing when it comes to defending against them, and so overwhelming that you need a player of these characters to tell you how to counter them. And that's not the case with Brian and Claudio. You can take in general rules, and then you can actually learn the matchup by playing against the characters. I don't find this to be true about these characters when you hit a certain level. If you're in green ranks, they will use a certain amount of tools, like 10 to 15 moves all the time. And you can learn to counter that in ranked battle. But believe me when I say, and this is from my own experience, once you leave the green ranks, the flowcharts from these characters will be so complicated that you will need a player who plays these characters to either help you on a Discord, Skype, or voice chat, play sessions against them for hours, and they can explain to you all of these highly complicated and numerous flowcharts and moves. So that is my definition of a lab character, and that is my definition of a gimmick. So I just hope that made sense to you, and if you play one of these lab characters, I don't feel you should be offended by this. I'm just trying to... There's really no emotion from my side into this. I'm just trying to deconstruct the game and explain the types of characters in this game, because these guys give the game a lot of diversity, I would say. It's like the entire character stands out, you know, like Eddie and Lei. Oh, we can just lie down on the ground at will. Ooh. You know, it's they bring diversity and color to the game. They really stand out. So yes, don't see this as a personal attack on your character. But is it highly complicated to learn to defend against your character? It sure is. You have to remember this. Again, you know, lay players say, oh god, I have to learn to use 200 attacks. Oh, my character is so hard compared to the others. Absolutely not. Everything is in your favor, actually. Because your opponent has to defend against those 200 attacks. And trust me, it's much easier to do a string in Tekken. You know, hit a couple of buttons. Anyone can do this. But to counter that very string you just did, that is what requires skill. Defense in Tekken always harder than offense. And when you have 200 attacks at your arsenal to confuse your opponent, like, that is a great asset. That's not a burden you have. The burden is upon your opponent to deal with that shit. And your opponent not only has Lei to worry about, to acquire knowledge on, he has 45 characters to do so. And when your character Lei is severely underplayed, boy oh boy are you gonna get a lot for free. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you all have a nice day. Take care.